Hello class, this is Michael Tweed here with another AutoCAD video, and in this video we are going to look at two sections. Actually, the assignment is for two sections. I'll probably break it up into at least two separate videos, but we're seeing on screen here the summary of the section, which I will review in class and things like that, so you can see various things. Here's our notes. Like always, there's 16 notes you have to put on. And then there's an enlarged section that has 33 notes that you have to put on, and basically you'll have on a title block, of course, this one section. This will be one drawing on a title block, and then this will be a second drawing on a title block. So with that, we'll basically begin by drawing a section. I also, assume that you guys know what sections are already. We'll probably review in class. But this is more about using AutoCAD to draw a section than sort of the basic information. I will say, to do this AutoCAD work, there is going to be several things we need to do. I'm going to start by showing how to set up your drawing to draw a good section. It's sort of interesting. We're drawing this section, section A, first. I mean, it's section A, so it makes sense to be drawn first. But the reality is I had to pre-draw parts of section B to find some information. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to be talking about layers. The layers that we'll use. A lot of times when people are first drawing sections and elevations, they get thrown off by what layers they use. So that's going to be covered in this video, and as well as how to start the enlarged section is going to be covered in this video. I'm going to do it a little bit differently than the instructions say, but ultimately it will get the same results. And there's other little things in there like the hatches and line weights and stuff that we'll be going over, particularly the batting. Might be something that you need to review. So if you know what a section is and you're sort of comfortable in AutoCAD, you still might want to jump ahead to those various sections to make sure you get it correct. Otherwise, I'm going to start at the beginning. And what I'm going to do is, there's my recording software there. I've already opened up my floor plan. So I'm not going to draw on my floor plans. It's not that you can't draw on your floor plans, but last week I did my structural plans separate from my floor plans. That's just so I don't get confused between the plans. And the same thing here. I'm going to be drawing this section this week. Next week we're going to be doing other sections, and then we're going to be doing elevations. Those are all very similar kinds of drawings, and they all need to really correspond very closely to our plans and to each other. And so to make them correspond to our plans, I'm going to set up my file in a specific way here in a second so I can just draw. I don't need to see the dimensions. They're already there. I'll just be using the drawings as a guide. And so, what's going to happen in the long run, I'm going to have my first floor plan several times. I'm going to have my second floor plan copied several times and rotated and moved. And same with my foundation plan, copied and moved several times. So if I did that all in this file, it's going to get really confusing about what is my main file, what needs to happen in various aspects. So I'm going to use a different file so I know, hey, this file is my floor plans. This is the one I go to if I need to change my floor plans. In my other file, well, it might have floor plans in it as guides, but they aren't my key ones to use should I need to make changes. Now the reality is, I'm not going to get into the details here, but if you're in a workplace, there's also benefits towards file sharing and stuff. And also when you're working on a server, I'm going to do this through blocks, but you would use X references in that case, and they would automatically be linked, and the whole process would work really nicely by making it its own file. So that's what we're going to do. So again, I'm going to use my floor plans as basis to get dimensions and things like this. The reality is I don't need the dimensions to do this. I can turn them off as well as my text, because I'm going to do this all graphically, which is always the nicer way to do it if you can. So I'm going to turn off my dimension layer, I'm going to turn off my text layer, and I'm just going to keep this. I could arguably turn off my hatch layer as well, because that isn't really needed, just extra information. And there might be some other things in there that turn out to be extra information, but that's good. I can read those plans clearly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to this over here, and I'm going to go to my regular copy command. This is not the copy to copy into files. This is like copy paste, like in any computer software, Control C. So I'm going to just select, I'm going to start with my first floor plan. I could have started with my foundation, but for demonstration purpose, I'll start with my first floor plan. What we're going to do is I'm going to go to File, New. Actually, what I should do is I'm just sort of thinking here, I have to start from this template. So I'm going to open my template. The problem is our template, as we know, we've been updating the text style as we go along, so my template's out of date. So I'm going to cheat actually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a file save as. This is a little bit of a workaround, but it's okay. I'm going to call this file sections and elevations, because I am going to do my elevations in here. Okay, so here we go. So I've got my floor plans in here. The problem is I'm still going to make blocks. I'm going to tell you why. Because I'm going to be copying these floor plans and rotating them around and stuff. And right now they're all individual lines. And if I misclick or something, I have to do more selection. So just taking them a long way to do it. So I'm going to turn these all into blocks, so I can just move them easier as I need to set up a bunch, because each drawing is going to need its own template floor plans. So I'm going to have multiple copies of it. So I'm going to still do, there's different ways of doing it. I'm still going to use the copy paste way. So I'm going to come over here, copy, just like I did a second ago. Click there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do paste block. I'm just typing it in. Paste block. And we can see it comes in, and I can just click anywhere right now, because I'll have to set these all up as needed. Actually, what I should do, as I started thinking, let me erase this. What I would love to do is turn on, I might have to cheat a little bit, I'm going to turn on my text layer again, because what I really want is I need to know my section line, this one and ultimately this one for next week. So I don't want those to turn off with my text, but I really don't need my text on there. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just go to layer 0 actually, go to layer 0, and I'm going to draw a line that just represents the section cut. This will be part of my template. And I'll do the same for this one. Okay. So I'll do that, and then what I'll do is I'll turn off my text. I'm going to do that for all of them. This is why we kept the section cuts in the same place. If you didn't keep your section tags in the same place drawing to drawing, you have to make sure at this point in time that they are, because we are using these for templates. And if this is up or down or left or right, you might get a different result between the drawings. Quite honestly, since there was no specific guides on where to set these tags in the assignments previous, it's very possible that each individual student is going to have a slightly different section because they've sort of changed the location of those section tags in their drawing. So anyway, there we go. I drew my guidelines on layer 0, so that'll be good to go. Now let's try this one more time. I'm going to copy, and I can also go here. I can click on that little arrow there and go paste as block. That's a sort of quick way of making it a block. And I don't need this anymore. I'm going to get rid of that and just erased it. I'm going to do this for all 3 plans. Copy, second floor plan, paste as block. You'll see alignment doesn't matter right now, because I'm in a second going to have to set up the alignment in a very specific way for this section. So I'm going to start by copying that and then paste as block. So I get all 3 in there, and I'm going to erase them. Now I'm going to be drawing section AA, which is this section here. And when you're drawing a section or elevation, there's different ways of doing it. The way I like to do it is I like to start by putting my plans in a column at the top and then drawing straight down, because I need to know how wide that wall is from this wall to this wall. Well, I have it in the plan. I could look at my dimensions and draw it sort of long form, but it's much easier just to draw a line straight down. You'll see I'll start drawing it soon. I'll just draw straight down and get those dimensions perfectly exact. And I can do that for all my plans. So what I really want to do is I want to stack my plans. So I'm going to put my second floor, I'm just going to snap from a corner. I'm going to move to my sort of back corner just to guide it into place. Then I'm going to move it again just straight up, and it could be any distance up, something like that. And I'm going to do the same with my first floor. I'm going to snap from the corner. I want to be careful here because there's actually insulation, so I don't want the insulation because the insulation is not aligned on my wall. All right, so I'm going to make sure I don't get that, and then move it straight down. Let me make sure my second floor, my vertical snap might not have been on. My second floor. I just want to verify it is. Okay, because being very precise, you want to be precise, you want to make sure it's accurate like this. So this is why I did a new file, because you can see I have less notes on there. They're stacked differently. When I do my next section and stuff, I'm going to have to rotate these as well. And so I don't want to get this confused with my floor plans. That's why they're in a different file like this. But now that I have these set up, I can start drawing my section. Now before I exactly jump right into drawing the building section, I want to talk about layers for a second. If I open up my layer box here, we can see I've got a bunch of layers. And typically what you do when you draw a section, the things that you cut through, just like if you're doing a plan, you're cutting through the walls, you make those your thickest layer. The same is true with the section, although I like to give some slight variation to that. So if I'm cutting through something, I'm going to go ahead and use the heavy line weight. Now I'm just going to check to see what the line thickness is. The heavy line thickness is 0.05. That's fine. We can go with that. That's not too bad. It's not super thick, but not super thin. And then as things sort of get further and further away from you, you tend to use lighter and lighter line weights. Now we have three. We have heavy, medium, and light. Now the other thing that I like to do in drawing sections is if I'm cutting through something but it's internal, say it's a wall composite of something, then this part that's inside, you'll see this when I'm drawing, but the part that's inside will be a step down layer. So I might use medium for some of my cuts if it's not an exterior surface. Think of it that way. That'll help with the clarity. So that's what I'll use. My heavy line weight for my exterior surfaces cuts. I'll do my medium for the internal, and I'll use my light layer for anything that's actually not in the section that's actually further. You'll see that you're drawing doors in the backgrounds, windows in the backgrounds, and things like that. Those will all be in my light. And of course I'll use my hidden line weights as well. I'll use batting as well. I'll have to talk a little bit about that. I'll be using text and dimensions and things like that as well. So you'll see, but I want to talk about that. You'll see me change layers. Sometimes you might just start drawing on one layer and edit layer later. But since in section most things are cut through, I'm going to start with this heavy layer. So I'll just click on there to make that my current layer. I'll just verify I'm at 3/16 down here. That's my correct scale. So I'll start drawing the walls. And again, what I'll do is I'll use my first floor as sort of the primary base. I'm just going to click on one side. I'm going to draw a line straight down, right? I can click on the inside of that wall and draw a line straight down too. Hopefully that's the interior. We're going to be adding things like drywall and other things on here. So I can't remember now what the plan had those, what pieces of elements they had on it, but we'll verify as we go. But certainly, so I basically drew it down here. Now I can see that I'm also going to be cutting through this wall, the stairs. So I can go ahead and I can start drawing the line straight down just like this. I could do the interior walls later if I wanted to. The order doesn't exactly matter. But I'm just basically showing you as a point. And now I'm going to be cutting through a door opening here, which again in my plan I am cutting through this opening in the ones that looks like we have as an example. It might not be quite in the exact same spot, but I'll draw this down here. So again, my section might be slightly different because I happen to be getting exactly through that doorway. So I'm drawing all the lines straight down. So again, see, I don't have to know the dimensions. They're sort of all just coming out automatically for me. And I'll draw this wall down. This wall down. So once I draw this line, I sort of set all my lines. Now I'm working off the first floor as a base. So what I mean by that is I think what I'll start drawing first, I'll show you that in a second where I'm looking for a section. Here we go. What I'm going to, I basically do that wall, that wall, that wall, that wall, so on and so forth all the way through. What I'll do is I'll start, instead of doing the foundation first, you could do the foundation first, it really doesn't matter. But since I've done the first floor, I'm going to just focus, I think, on some of these areas in here for a second. So I'm going to draw the first floor line, just the top of the first floor. So I'm going to start with that line. All right. We can notice that it only goes through the floor, that doesn't go through the garage, that the garage is a little bit lower. So I'm going to go to my section. I'm just going to start by striking a line. Doesn't really matter that I'm just starting a base. It's got to be somewhere. I'm saying that is the top of my first floor. Okay. Now what we can see is the walls generally aren't going to go below that, especially the interior walls. They won't go below it. The exterior walls might, because they come with the foundation wall, but they're going to be slightly different there. So I can trim all of this away. I don't need those lines. Now they're flat. They sort of end on that wall plane, right? And then what I'll do is I can set the ceiling height, which according to our drawing is 9 feet. That's what that says. That says it's 9 feet right there. So I can just offset 9 feet because that's my clear building height, right? The reality is, again, I'll have to come back because this line, I forgot about the garage, right? This line's actually going to stop in internal somewhere, and I'll clean that up, and this line will go a little lower, and we'll get that all worked out as we need to. But I'm basically setting up my floor height and my ceiling height, right? Now, I could keep going with this because the reality is my second floor has some of the same exterior walls, and I can trim the interior walls as needed. And some of these interior walls I might need, the stair plan might go up, doesn't matter, but I could do this for now. But we can see in the instructions, if I'm starting to think about my second floor plan, even if I just zoomed in a little bit so you can read it, you can see here's 9 foot to the finished ceiling, and then it says second floor plan is up here, and it's another 9 feet. And it doesn't give you this distance, so we're going to have to sort of figure that out as we go. And we know that if we look up at our blow-up plan, which is the sort of next image down, you can see that there's a piece of gypsum wallboard here, which is a 1/2 inch. That's what 19 says, and just looking ahead. And then we've got this piece, which we don't know. It doesn't say. We'll actually have to go back to our structural framing plans we did previous week. As a reminder, those were 2x12s, right? So that's going to be 11¼ inches thick. And then we have to look. Let's see if they have the notes for the wall for the finished floor somewhere. 21. Let's see. Note 21 says finished flooring per owner over 3¼ inch tongue and groove subfloor. So we know the second line's 3¼ inch subflooring plywood there, and then it just says flooring per owner. It doesn't say, but I'm going to make it the same 3¼ inch because that's what it looks like here. If it's a wood floor, it could be 3/4. It could be thinner if it's a composite thing. It could be thicker if it's really solid wood. It could, obviously, if it were carpet or something else, it'd be something sort of different entirely. But we'll go with that. Just 3/4 inch for that. So I sort of have to construct this whole area to begin to find where my second floor is in the first place, since it's not really given there. So I'm going to go back to my drawing, section elevation. So I'm going to trim this up because I know it's not going to go to the outside of that way, and I know in my section for my garage that the garage is going to be at the same height. So the garage is going to have a higher ceiling, so I can trim that way. So I'm going to offset a 1/2 inch. That would be my drywall, and I'm going to have to clean this up because the drywall wouldn't go through walls and things like that. We'll take a look at that in a second. I'm just setting up my heights for now. So I'm going to offset then 11 3¼ to do my joist thickness. It's going to be that height. And then I'm going to have 3/4 inch offset. Did I do that the right way? Let me just check. That's my subfloor plywood. Yep, I did it. And then I'm going to do another 3/4 inch to do the finished flooring. Okay, so that's the second floor. Now, if we look at our drawing, it's another 9 feet to the top of that ceiling. All right, so there's the top of that house. And actually, this is 8 feet over here. We'll come back and do that later. So here's the thing. Now we've got all the way to the roof. I'm going to do the roof a little bit differently because if we really look, I would say that. Let me open up the floor plan here again for a second. I put, maybe this was a difference again. I don't know where they set the section cut, and now my section cut is set. This might have been the key. My section cut is not halfway through the roof. If I select my roof plan, or if I draw a line from the top of my roof all the way down and select this, we can see I'm actually cutting, the halfway point is here. That's going to be the peak, the highest point of my roof. All right, but my section cut is up from it by a little bit. Now maybe I just simplify it. I mean, the reality is, am I going to have any difference whether I pull back? Probably not. So maybe I just say it's a halfway point. But the reality is, and that's what our section is showing here. It's clear this section that we're supposed to be drawing is set like section A is at the halfway point. So I think what I'm going to do is say, well, I'm close enough. I'm going to make that assumption even though it's not perfectly accurate. So we need to find the height of that roof, and that's also not given on the instructions. If we see here, that is not given here. Now the only way to figure that out is actually to do section B. So I pre-started that. I'm not expecting you to do it. That's next week's assignment. I'm not sure why we're drawing section A before section B. Obviously I know why A comes before B, but from an educational standpoint in constructing this house, it can't be done. Maybe section B should have be called section A or something like that. So I had to pre-draw that already to get this height. All right, now I'm not going to have you pre-draw that. I'm just going to tell you what it is. And if I go here, you can see I've sort of pre-drawn it. And so this height here, the height of the roof, turns out to be 17 feet 11 1/8 inches tall. Now the thing is, so I can start to offset that distance, but again, it's not offset from here. I first got to offset my half-inch drywall, right? And then I've got this truss here, which again, we don't really know the details of that truss until we draw section B, but I believe those are 2x6s as the bottom. So I'm just going to strike a line. It's not a line we need, it's just going to be a guideline, but I'm going to go up 5.5 inches, which is going to be the top chord of my truss, because from that point up is where the roof takes off from. So now I can offset 17 foot 11 1/8 inches, and all the way up here, that line, I don't need this line, I'm going to erase it because it's not a line that's needed, but this line here, that's the top of my roof. And the chimney is going to stick up a little higher up on this side. So I can sort of fill that together that way. The wall is actually going to stop at the second floor, so I can trim the inside wall down here. We'll come back and construct the trusses later. This wall sort of is going to stop down here as well. And that goes there, and so I'll fill this together. And lots of little details need to be made, but that is now from the finished first floor all the way up to the top of my roof, so it's sort of containing my drawing. Of course, we need to go down to the foundation as well, and we sort of need to do the same thing here. So if we look, I'm first going to have some sort of unknown finished floor that I'm calling 3/4 of an inch, so I'll offset down 3/4 of an inch. We'll offset another 3/4 of an inch down for the plywood subflooring. Then we have our joists, which are 2x12s again, so it's 11 1/4 inches, and that'll be there. And it does look like there's another. Is that drywall being shown there? Section sort of unclear. There's definitely a double line there, it looks like to me, as well against the foundation wall. Let's see if I can see a note here. Yeah, I'm going to say that there's not one specifically for the ceiling, but there definitely is for the sides wall. So if there's on the side wall, I'm going to assume it's on the ceiling too. So we'll offset another 0.5 inches for the material of that. And then we have 9 feet. Now it definitely looks like in this case, actually in all the cases, it's really hard to see these drawings. 9 feet is from the bottom of the joist to the bottom of the basement, or from the top to the top of the basement. So, 9 feet. I think that might be the case on the other one, so I might have to correct the other ones. Offset there to there. That's the bottom of the basement floor. Of course, it doesn't go over the garage. So that's going to be sort of, I'll have a little foundation that comes down here as well, and we'll get to that, but I'm nearing the extent of my drawing. Now, I have to actually shrink. I'm going to stretch 1/2 inch the first floor, because I dimensioned my 9 feet from the finished floor to the finished ceiling, which I would like to do, but taking a closer look, they're really dimensioning. Actually, I don't need to do that because they're dimensioning from the different points on here. I think it's really hard to see what the dimension is. It's not clear to me, and it's, you know, it doesn't matter exactly what this is as long as you're under the zoning code, quite honestly. But it's hard to see what their snapping point is through all of here. The basement is easy. I can see the dimension line going straight through to that point. I'm going to undo it. You know what? Who cares? Don't have to follow. I'm not following the instructions exactly later either, so I'm going to make it clear. I'm going to make a 9-foot clear space. So that shift that I just did, the stretch I just did, ignore it. Don't do it. Doesn't matter as long as we're consistent and we're measuring things. And maybe, well, it does say finished ceiling there, so we'll go with finished ceiling. I just noticed that. Anyway, okay, so there's sort of my extents of my drawing. Of course, with this wall going to come down, the foundation wall is going to below. We did a sort of section earlier, so a practice section, and the same principles of that wall section are going to apply to here. Basically, I'm going to take back the ceiling height, just pull it in a little bit. I can extend it later, because what I know is going to happen is right at the edge of this wall. So I'll draw a line down. I'm going to, and I'll pull it down this way. I'm going to have 2 by 12 coming sort of at me. This is actually in cut, so I'm going to offset 1.5 inches to get this. I'm going to put an X in here because, right, that's what we put when we draw lumber that we're cutting through. We put an X in it. I'm going to put that on the hatch layer. So you turn on my hatch layer. That means I forgot I turned it off and I just saved. I didn't copy, so I can erase this hatch layer. I can erase this hatch layer. Erase that hatch layer. I was intending of copying them into a different file where it wouldn't have the hatch layers. I just turned them off. I just remembered that. So this piece is cut, and of course the floor pieces, they're cut through as well. But the joist itself, that's running the other way, that's not cut. That's not a cut line, although it is the top of a ceiling line, quite honestly. So I will keep that there. You know, this is the ceiling line there, and then below this I have another little 2 by 4, or I should say it's a 2 by 6. So I'm going to draw another polyline, 1.5, 5.5, and it's going to be sort of in this orientation. And I'm going to put a little X in it as well. It's going to match properties. Turn it into the hatch layer. And I'm going to put it right underneath it, like that, right? So now this is where my foundation wall is going to sit upon, my concrete foundation wall. So I can start drawing another line down. It's actually going to go below the 9 feet because it's got the footing below it. And I can come up to my first floor plan to get the thickness of that. Right? So I can draw this down, and I can draw a line across and fillet that together. That will be my foundation wall sitting on top of this. I got details. I got the little anchor bolt and things to draw in there, but I'm not drawing details yet, sort of sketching out this plan as needed. And then I can come down, and then 4 feet below is the bottom of my footing. So that's the bottom of my footing. I can draw my footing width because that's from this plan as well. So I can just draw that line down, draw this line down. That's my footing width. And my footing height is, let's see, there's a note there. Let me just make sure I don't tell you the wrong things. 12 inches thick, which I assumed it was going to be, but that is what it says. So I can draw offset up because when I did the 4 feet down, it's to the bottom. So I can draw a little fillet together, fillet this together, fillet that together, and I can trim up that. So there's my foundation. Now again, there's a little key here you can make with like a 2 by 4, which I can come back and I'll do the details later. And the slab itself is going to be generally through 3 inches or 4, let's see, 4 inches thick. Oops, I don't know, I did offset 4 inches and trim that up on this side. And there's a little detail again here. We'll get to the detail here. And this is going to come down the same on this side. So we start building this side of the drawing. I will just copy this foundation over here. It's going to align with this wall. So I'll just strike a guideline for now. Move this over, trim up this wall like that, and I would have to do sort of the same detailing here as here, and we will get to that. We will get to that in a second. But I'm starting to sort of construct my overall diagrams there. And what I'm going to do is I'll extend this back over. I probably could construct the wall first. But let me go, before doing this part, let me go back to drawing some of the detail of this upper wall section. We got a good start. I could well, you know what, why not? Why don't I just start from the bottom and work my way up? So I'm going to do this key here, which is going to be from a 2x4. So I'm going to start by drawing a polyline 1.5 by 3.5. And I'm going to move it from the midpoint to midpoint. And then I can trim out all that stuff, right? So I get my key in here. So that's my key. Then we can come up and see another little detail here. Let's see, where'd my drawing go? There we go. We have this over, let's see, over 8 inches. And it has a thickness of 8 inches. Is this edge of the slab here. So that's the edge of the slab. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line up and rotate this little line I just drew 45 degrees. I actually did negative 45 degrees to make it go in that direction. And now I can fillet that to that, and this to that over there, and I can remove this guideline. And we have this little sort of expansion joint in there, so I'm just going to offset that like 1/4 inch. Could have done maybe 1/2 inch or something, but I'll go with 1/4 inch. Put that little line in there, put that little line in there, and then there's a secondary line there, which might be, not sure what that line is. It's not noted. I'm surprised there's no, I think the note does say, if I recall, there should be over gravel or something. We're not even showing that either. But it could be insulation, but it's not noted. So I'm just going to ignore that secondary line there. So I'll do that. And it'll come up, we'll notice that there is a couple vertical lines here. So there's an interior drywall sort of partition. There's a furring strip. A furring strip is like basically a skinny piece of material that can hold drywall against a concrete wall or a brick wall, whatever the case might be. And I think it's 3/4 inch. So I'm going to offset 3/4 inch. There's different sizes of furring, but I believe the note says 3/4 inch. Offset 3/4 inch. Of course, trim it up to this location, and it's going to go up to basically the joist height. So it's going to go up to that height there. And I can pull this back. And then there is the 1/2 inch drywall on the wall. So I'll offset it another 1/2 inch that way. And I'll let the ceiling gypsum come through on that way. And I'll check the bottom of it. So there we go. So here's where I want to talk about layers for a little bit. So right now I've sort of, all of the foundation as I've seen is sort of drawn on a cut layer, because it is cut. Those are all cut elements. But this, particularly in here, if this is all very thick, they're all very close lines together, it can be hard to read. So what I mean by, when I said at the beginning of this video that I want exterior faces to be on the heavy line layer and interior ones I might change. So so I might make some of these layers a lighter line weight to just be more easily seen. And in fact, I actually have to draw insulation out on this side. So I've got another line weight over here that I can draw down. I'm just going to draw the insulation down to there and stop the insulation here. Right? So same with, this is all sort of, now this is sort of my exterior face. And this is a cut line, but I'm going to change it to medium just to make it easier to read and make it look interesting. Where'd medium go? Here we go. And change my medium, of course, to blue. Yours may be black. Now technically the furring strips is going to be a gap, so arguably this is sort of an exterior face, because then this is a gap, and then this is another face and face, but that's going to be hard to read. So I think I'm going to go ahead and just set these lines to medium, and then you can see what's going to happen is I'm going to have this exterior wall sort of go around, and arguably if I really want to do this, I could pull these lines back and pull these lines back, actually, because this should be on the medium layer as well, because it's the change between materials. Right? And then this part becomes an exterior face up to here. Right? So I want to put that back as a dark blue. So you can see the sort of changing of line weights. And then this one, again, even though it's a gap, I want to make it sort of lighter so we can sort of read it. So I'm going to change the line weights just like that. Right? I'm going to keep things that are sort of, there are different rules. There's no exact rules. Like I could have argued that since this was part of the same line, it'd be clearly easy to read. I could have all left that as cut. And since I made these polylines, instead of like saying, okay, well this is an exterior face and this is exterior face, but this one isn't, that one partially is, I'm just going to leave my 2x4s all as thick lines. But I do, of course, have the X's on a lighter line weight. Now this joist is going to be stopped here, so I can pull this back to this location. Technically, this is the edge of my drywall, right? So from this point on, and actually from this point on, this is actually to here, it's not a cut line anymore, and it's not even in the object, it's actually in the distance. So this bit of the line will actually want to be all the way on my light line layer, right? It's the edge of the joist, and quite honestly, that's true from there to there as well. This piece of furring is in the distance. I'm not cutting through the furring, so it should be on the light line layer just like that. All right. So I've got that little section done, and I'd come up, and I will draw the next bit here. And so the way we construct the wall is I'm going to have my subfloor. It's basically going to go to this edge location, trim up that lines, but then I'm going to have a 2x6 that sits on top of that, just like this. Okay, and of course on top of that, on this one side, I'm going to have my drywall. Let's see if they, I'm assuming it's still going to be a 1/2 inch drywall. Yeah, 1/2 inch drywall. And actually, yeah, 1/2 inch drywall. It's interesting because this wall thickness is different. Looks like it's going to be drywall internal edge and an offset 0.5. See, the difference between my real construction face and what I drew there is a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to erase that inside face. And it could just be, no, I don't think it is. That is pretty much how the section looks like it's drawn. So erase that line, draw down, and then the flooring is going to go back. Usually, I mean, there's usually gaps, and this is why you put floor trim in, which is actually not shown in the section. Base trim, that is, not floor trim. But that's just sort of how I'm going to detail that edge in that way. And I'm going to come up to the top, and I know I have the joist coming through. I'm going to have a double plate up at the top of 2x6s. So I'm going to take this 2x6. I'm going to copy it up right on top of there, because this joist is going to come and sit on that element there. And the drywall will come all the way through. I will take this line up, that one to there, this one to here. And again, because this one really is sort of an internal one, I'm going to put that on my medium layer. And same with this one. Put this on my medium layer. Make it easier to read. Okay, and then we have, I guess we have some exterior finish. Let's see what the notes say on this. I'm just reading the numbers on each drawing, both the big and the small. There's a 1/2 inch of plywood sheathing, and then there is wood shingles over 30-pound building paper. So I can offset a 1/2 inch for the sheathing, and the sheathing will come straight down like that. And then I have, doesn't say the exact size, I don't think, does it? Siding. No, it doesn't say the exact size of those elements. So we're just going to have to make something up. And there also looks like there is some skirt board, something there at the bottom. Let's see, 15, one note, 5/4 by 6 inches. Okay, so I'm going to go offset 5.5 inches up. Will be the top of that, and out 5/4 an inch. So this is my exterior board there. I can put this together. What's going to end up happening is that this sheathing is going to end up being covered up by shingles, so I can put that on medium layer now. I'm just going to draw a shingle on here. I'm going to start by drawing a line here. I'm going to start by going up like 5 inches, and I'm going to pull it back to that back line there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select both of these corners, and I'm just going to pull it in just a little bit. It's just sort of a symbol like a shingle. And actually, what I should have done, because I'm going to make a bunch of copies of these, is I could have made this line, and this line all sort of a polyline. So I'm going to key edit. Say, turn that into a polyline, yes. Okay, J for join. Select and select these 3 lines, so they become one object. Because now I can just copy this up, and sort of I get this little jagged pattern like shingles. And it's okay if they're not exactly the same size. It is really just a symbol to show the shingles. Ooh, that's a bit of a tongue twister. So let's see, how far up am I going? I could have arrayed this. This might have been a great case to use array, just to get it up there really quickly. Maybe explode the array when you're done, but I didn't. So now I feel like I'm committed to just copying all the way up. We're not cutting through any windows on the exterior wall, so just keep going all the way up. I'll probably have to edit this when we get to some of the top details. Jeez. Should have just arrayed it, definitely. I'm still here. I'm still here. I should be at the top soon. Holy cow. I think I need to make this a line type or hatch or something. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to put up the top. There's some detail work that needs to be done up there at some point in time, so we'll worry about that. Anyway, there's the first floor, pretty much done. We'll go to the second floor. Again, what I'll do is, now this is a big gap here. That's my joist. And my joist technically is a light line weight, but I got the gypsum on one side and the sheathing on the other, so I'll turn all these sort of internals to sort of a medium line weight, and it's sort of the exterior. This line and this line is sort of what you would see as a person, so I'll keep those sort of as a dark line weight, and we've got the same 2x12 and plate sort of going on. So I'll just, since I drew it down here, I'm just going to copy it up to here. Oh, I didn't make that one a polyline, I guess. So let me go and draw on those missing line weights. Connect these things through. Got at the top, I'm going to have two 2x6s again. Let's copy up to there again. This is the drywall, so they go up to the structure, right? Like that. Draw a line down in between. It's the inside edge of my drywall. I'm going to offset a 1/2 inch since it's sort of the inside edge. I'll make it cyan like that. Come down with my drywall all the way and go over with my flooring just like that. And up here, I'll set that way, I'll set this way. So there's my second floor, like pretty much the same as our first floor. And then we've got to do these sort of trusses that we have for this. And so I think the way that it is, I think they're 2x6s. So I'm going to draw a vertical. Actually, I can just copy because these are 2x6s too. Copy that. I can rotate it up like that because it's going to be in this orientation. So the bottom of the truss, basically, it's going to start there. There's going to be one. It looks like it's halfway up the roof, and then of course there's going to be one. Well, it's going to be nearly all the way to the top. There's some little detail to get the overhang on this first one. I think there's 16 inches on center, so I'm going to copy this over 16 inches to the one that's over at the topmost level. And I know there's going to be a line that comes up that way, a line that'll come up here, and then at the very top of my roof I have a couple pieces of material. I've got some shingles, and then some building paper, and some 5/8 inch sheathing, it looks like. So I'm going to offset this line 5/8 of an inch to do my shingle depth, and I'm going to offset another 5/8 of an inch to be my sheathing. So that means the truss is going to end underneath the sheathing. So I can trim that line up here, and I can copy this truss from here to here, right? Excuse me. And actually, these lines I'm not cutting through, so they will be on the light line wire when I'm done. But I also have another element halfway through the truss, another chord of that truss coming through. So I'm going to grab from the midpoint of that line to the midpoint of the truss, and I've got this here. What I want to do is I'm going to just trim those out just to sort of draw cleanly and pull these lines up to here and pull these lines up to here. And there's different ways of trimming this. I could have broken the line, that might have been easier, but now I'm going to draw these lines back. Why I'm drawing them back is because I'm going to take all these lines, since I'm not cutting through them in any kind of way, and put them all on the light line layer. There's my standard truss, which you can copy 16 inches across. Actually, are they more than 16 inches across? I'd have to go back and look at my framing plans. Actually, they're 24 inches on center. And I just went back to my old drawing. So I moved it 16 inches, so I got to move this another 8 inches over. And I could copy 24 inches. Now, 24. Copy. This is going to do a few of these. I'm not going to go all the way across, bore you guys with that. Let's see. Copy, copy, copy. You can keep going and keep going across. And the reason why I drew this one first is because the one that is here is a little shorter because we have to carry the overhang of the roof on this side, but some of the elements are aligned. So for example, I know that this line is just going to come right over, and therefore I can draw a light line layer straight up to this point, and I can start another one straight up here, and I can sort of match those two properties together. And let's see, let's go and take a look at my drawing here. Let's see, I'm going to look at some of these notes. I'm looking at the big section here, to some of the detailed notes. I had a 2x6 fascia there. It's 27. It's a 1x10 finished fascia. Okay, that's what I was looking for. So we got it. And a 29. 29 is 2x4. That's what I figured it was, but just wanted to make sure. So I have a 2x4 that hangs out over from this truss to over to make that little cantilever. So I'm going to offset 3.5 inches down. Now I'm not cutting through that, so it shouldn't be a thick line weight, but it's going to end there. Delete that here, and it's going to come out. And I know my edge of my roof I have for my second floor plan is here, so I can draw a line down, which will be the edge of this overhang, right? It's coming out there. So I have that coming out there. It's a 2x4. Then at the end I have a 2x6. And copy one of these 2x6s out. But I actually have, the first thing I have is a 1x10. So I'm going to draw a poly line. It's going to be 0.75 inches for the 1, and then 9.25 inches for the 10, right? Because that's how lumber works. And this is going to sit up underneath the sheathing, so I can move this up to there, and that's going to be where my 2x10 is located. And then my 2x6 is going to be next to that, there. And let's see, 26 prefabricated soffit. So there's going to be a cut line that comes across here. That's the end of my soffit. So I don't need any shingles above that line because that's all going to be inside sort of the construction of the roof. So I can erase those elements there. I have my distances look a little different, but they do seem to be correct. So I'll just go with it. There's this 2x4 that hangs out. Here now this has stopped that truss in this location, so I can copy this guy right underneath this 2x4. Pull this up here. I can stop my exterior sheathing at that location as well. Trim that line up there and turn this line onto a light line layer because it is not being cut through in this location. So that's sort of that detail there. Actually, I got to put, this line doesn't need to go there. the roofing material and of course goes completely over everything there. And there's a metal drip edge there, which you can see there's a little, looks like there's a little line in the blow-up. The reality is, if you want to show that drip edge, you need to draw a bigger section than I think we're working with here. So we can put the note in, but I'm not going to do any particular drawing in this case to show it. But that's the edge of the roof going all the way across. Now, we'll notice that there's also some hatching and some things going on. Oops, I can trim up this line here. It doesn't need to go any below that. There we go. We have some batting, which is the squiggly lines, and we have some concrete down in here. So I'm going to go to my hatch layer, and I'm going to do my hatch command. I'll start with the concrete, arc concrete. I'm going to click in there, and I like to do mine independently, so I'm going to click in there. And I haven't finished this side yet, so I can't hatch in there without doing it, but I could do the same thing. And then we've got this bat. And the bats we're going to use, we're going to go to the bat layer actually. And we're going to, it's actually a line type. So I'm going to draw a line midway down. I'm going to start here to here. And we can see when I draw, I just drew a regular line, and it turned out looking like this, but it's very wide. We need to fit this inside our stud. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Properties. All right, and if I select on this line, it's going to have something here called Line Type Scale, and if I make that number smaller, it's going to make the shape of this line smaller. And this works for any line, hidden lines or whatever. So if I do like 0.5, you can see it got smaller. Still too big, which means I have to reduce the number, but I can make it smaller. If I want to make this wider, I can make it wider as well. So just by making the number bigger. So I'll try 0.25. It's still a little big, so I'll try 0.2. And it looks pretty good. It doesn't have to be exact in this case because it is just a symbol, but it's gonna look good just like that, right? And then the same is going to be true for this piece. I have a little line. Now it's going to be the same line weight. So I might just draw a line here. I'm going to draw it like outboard of it for a second, and then match properties from here to here, and then move it to where it belongs. So I'm going to move it to there since I don't have an exact location. Then I'll do the same thing here and draw the line there. I can just match properties to get it to the same scale. Draw it up there, and then we have bigger insulation at the top. It's going to be, well, it doesn't give us an exact sizing. It's just it gives us an R insulation value, and I don't have the details to know how thick it is, so it's clearly thicker. So I'm going to draw a line across. Again, I'm going to just start by drawing it up out here. The reality is maybe that standard thickness just looks pretty good, so I'm not even going to worry about changing it. But I'm going to put it all the way. You can sort of see when it gets big like this, there's like different lines. It's sort of trying to snap, and I don't want it to go over. So it's something like that. It looks just about right. And I'm going to raise it up above the bottom chords of the truss, although you could put it internally, but you want it to go over to sort of make it complete, or as much of it complete as possible there. And I'm going to have the same sort of thing centered in here. Actually, this is quite big, so maybe I'll change the upper one because this insulation is not going to take up that whole cavity. So I'm going to try, like, let's see what 0.75. 0.75 still too big. 0.5 still too big. 0.25. 0.25. It's good enough. So we'll keep that there. I'm going to make this, since this is such a difference, I'm just going to now make this 0.75 to give it not be so crazy. Move this down just like that. So that was my batting insulation. And this will be sort of, it's going to be sort of weird when we do our blow up section, but so keep that in mind when jumping ahead to the next video. So anyway, you would continue to draw the section. I'm not going to draw this entire section. I'm going to draw a few more parts, but it's clearly this wall is going to be built very similarly to the way we did this one, right? Same with the foundation for the garage and the slab. It's all going to be fairly similar. The heights are slightly different, but you want to pay attention to those, but it's going to be similar. The last thing I want to note is if we did a sort of an interior wall here, we would start with the 2x4 because that's, I can go to my heavy layer. I'm going to close my properties. I can draw a 2x4, 1.5, 3.5, 1.5 there. I'm going to draw my little X. Hatch layer. And I can set this, move to in here. And I have drywall, which is a 1/2 inch thick. So I can offset that 1/2 inch, move it in. And again, since this is my internal, I'm going to take the insides of that and put it on my medium layer. And I can copy this guy up. So interior walls, pretty similar. Again, it's not, the drywall is not going to go through the studs. So I can trim out the drywall like that. And I have drywall on each side. So I sort of completed the room. The inside walls, same with here. They're going to be fairly standard. But the other thing we can see in here is we have things like, we have a couple lines and we have windows. I'll show you, where's that? Right here. So sort of drawing this room, we see all these. This is the wall behind in plan, I'll show you, and then the windows way behind that. So we want to use light line layers to show this. I really wish there was like sort of like an extra light line layer for the windows, but we don't have it. Quite honestly, we don't even have the window. We haven't done the elevation, so I'm not even sure we know how tall those windows are. We haven't done the schedules. We haven't done any of that. So I can make some assumptions on the height, but some details I might just have to make up as I'm drawing it. So, like the sill height, I'm not sure it has said that anywhere yet. But anyway, so this is the wall. So what I'm saying, I'm looking here, and I'm looking up. So if I'm standing here and looking up, first I see these wing walls. That's this wall, it's the opening. So I can draw this line down, there. Draw this line down here, and that just ends, right? It's anything I see in the distance cannot be internal to my cut line. Even if the real material goes up that high, it can't be seen that way. So I can take this, I'm going to put it on the light line layer. So that would be those wing walls. And then I would draw down for the windows as well. So here's one, and I'm going to take a shortcut, which is another way of doing it. I'm going to start by changing to light. I'm going to just draw a bunch of straight lines here. Well, that's one window frame. That's the next piece of window frame. So on and so forth, here to here, here to here. And I'm going to move these all down to here. Now, the edges we don't see because they're behind the ring wall, so I can cut them off. Now, I know the top of my window is probably 6'8" off the finished floor. That's a typical dimension. So that's going to be the top of my window. The sill height doesn't really say. There's a couple common ones. I'm going to say it's 3 feet up. That looks pretty good. There's really variation there. A number of different factors can drive that. So I'm just going to set that up that way. And of course, windows have thicknesses, so inset in and in, and all these will be on my light line layer here like this. And then the window itself is going to have some thickness because that's basically what we're drawing is the frame. I don't see it behind the wing walls. So draw that up that way, draw it up this way, extend down, trim this up like that, and I'm going to offset in an inch just to start drawing the window components themselves, and I'll fillet these together. Now we have to draw this. These are double hung windows, which are drawn backwards in your drawing. They probably were copied from the elevation. They're drawn as exterior, so I'm going to draw them the right way. I'm going to find the midpoint. I'm going to assume that the thickness of that is the same as this. So I'm going to offset that distance up. Okay. Now, the midpoint of this whole frame should be the midpoint. So I'm going to draw a line in between, move from the midpoint down to there, because now that's the midpoint of that line. So if I select this, I'll get the midpoint tag right there, and that's the midpoint, right? Now, we can only see one end of the sash, the front or the back. And the bottom, since we're seeing the inside of the window, the bottom sash is always on the inside. That way, because on the outside, the water drips off of it. So this, it's drawn backwards in the drawing we have there, but that would be the way to draw this drawing there. And then once I have that, I can copy this window over to here, and copy it to here, and erase and trim away the parts that I don't need. And there's also, looks like a piece of trim, and I can say it's 5.5 inches thick. I have no idea. It doesn't say. That extends down below, and that's sort of the window we see through the background. So what you'll have to do, because this video is getting long, and I've already really, quite honestly, just barely started, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to draw the rest of the section using the same procedures. The walls are all the same. You know, the interior, you can look up, you can see whether it's a door or not, and draw all of that. The one piece that I'll say is when you cut through a door, this is not shown in the section either, because they're just cutting through something. I don't even know where they're cutting through. But when you cut through a door, you can sort of see it up. Just be careful. Like you can see when you're cutting through a door. I'm going to show you the directions because they do cut through a door in one location, which is up in here. You have to draw the line. You don't cut through this part. It's opening. It's a door. You don't draw the door either. You just draw sort of the opening, right? So that's whenever you cut through a door, make sure you do that. And it looks like on the first floor we do have a door in a couple locations, at least in my section, and the section that if you're cutting through the roof that you would have to do. So pay attention to that. All right. Of course, I'm going to just show you. I'm going to add just a couple of the notes. So I'm going to go to my text layer. So I need to turn on my text layer, my dimension layer, because I copied it. Should have just erased them. I can erase these notes. I don't. Okay. I'm going to go to my text layer. It's the same scale, so I'm going to go to annotate, and I'm going to look, and let's see. I really have no notes that. There's not a lot of notes in this big section, but I'm going to do one. Because I'm going to show you. The reason why I'm just putting one in here, because I know you guys know how to use annotative tags at this point in time. It's not about how to do that. The issue is going to be what you're going to do when you go to do your next wall section, the blow-up section. So I'm just going to put in a note. And I'm going to say this is insulation. I haven't finished this part of the drawing. So please do not look at my notes here as finished quality. This is just to add a note. My annotation style is still set off. I thought I fixed this. Modify. Middle top. If yours is doing that. If you have any issues, I know there's a lot of settings and all the dimension and texts, and I can help you fix them like I just fixed that. Anyway, there's your notes. You're going to have a few of them in this section. You're also going to have dimensions. So I'll put in just a dimension or two. Again, I know you guys know at this point how to do dimensions. It's just a case of setting up the next one that is going to, I really want to show you how I would do this. So follow just dimensions that they have on here. Oh, I should actually add the little symbol as well. I'll talk about that. So, you know, if I dimension from the bottom of the footing to here is 4 feet. I can continue that dimension from here to the finished ceiling. Oops, misclicked it there. I think I can get right here. 9 feet. Okay, I should continue dimension, but I didn't. That's the only one we can really continue because the next one they've got gaps. Alright, so I'm going to click from the top of my floor to the bottom of my ceiling because that's what it looks like they're dimensioning to. Should be 9 feet, and I want to sort of snap to make sure they're even, and so on and so forth. And I can continue the dimension up. Now we also notice that there's this little circle with a 4-part circle here. That's sort of your height of your elevation tag, and it says first floor. So I'm going to have to go, put those back on my text layer. And I'm going to go to multi-line text. I'm just going to draw this out and say first floor, all caps of course. And I might have to pull my dimensions out because that's not going to fit, because I want to put my first floor in there. So I want to make sure this is clean, so I'm going to pull those out, give myself a little bit of space. We're probably not as tight on the finished view as we were in some other ones, although we might be, but it looks like it'll fit according to this drawing. So I'll do that, and you can put all the notes in as you see. Then we've got this little symbol here. I'm going to continue to draw out. I'm just going to draw this. Draw a line out. I'm going to draw a circle about the size I think it should be. And then I'm going to draw a vertical line down, trim it up as needed, and extend this line out. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to solid hatch this section and this section. So I'm going to go to hatch. I'm going to scroll up to the top to get solid, and click in there, and click in there, and I've made that section which I can then copy. Right? So I can copy all of this up. We've got a few more things in here. We have the, we're showing in this one the other section tab in section B, which is a line straight down from here. So I can go and grab that again under my, let's see, it's going to be under insert, actually not design center, I want to go to view tool palettes, and I can just draw a new section cut. Let's see, section, palette section right there. Put that in. Now this line, I can close that. This line is going to be in the same spot as that section, so I know it's going to be in this location. You need to rotate this around. You can find the rotate one. Here we go. Then flip it that way. I'll move this here. I'm going to move it up. There. I can accidentally pushed F1, close that down. Come on, come back, computer. There we go. Erase this line. I'm going to drag this down to there, and of course double click in here to change those notes to B. And my computer's really lagging all of a sudden. Okay, AutoCAD, what are you doing? Well, that would be fun. Oh, it came up on my other screen. There we go. Whew, I was going to say, if that closed down, guess what? That would have been the end of the video. There you go. B, A, -106. Boom. Okay. And then we've got this other square here. I'm going to just draw on the notes layer. I'm going to draw a rectangle This is going to be for a blow up. So I'm going to draw a rectangle like this. It's going to come through there. It's a little low there. I shouldn't make it so low. Shouldn't make it so wide either. It's going to be pretty much tight in right against those circles. It's like that. I'm going to go home and I'm going to put this on. This is going to be one of those rare opportunities where I'm going to change this field over here. I'm going to change it to hidden. Makes a nice dotted line. Actually, not change it because they're using phantom line weight. So change it to phantom line weight. And I think actually I shouldn't have closed down. I should have gone to view, tool palettes. I bet they have a call out tab. Call out bubble. Let's see how this one works. This is like an elevation call out bubble. It's possible I can remove the tag. If not, I might cheat. So I just want the circle. I don't want the arrow portion of it. And I could draw it from scratch, and maybe that's what I should just do, because I can just draw a circle based off of this guy, draw a line, and move, and just do a circle and line right over top of that, see? So I can move it out. Erase that. And I'll just take a piece of text. I've already got a text started and draw this up. A lot of these things I like to have pre-made blocks for, but we don't seem to have them. So we'll call this one. Now, it's interesting because we're calling this one A105. The problem is that A105 is going to be the main section, and the instructions say to use a different oriented. We have to use the portrait landscape for the tall section, which means it's got to be a different sheet than this one. So I'm going to call this not A105, not A106, because A106 is the other section, but I'm going to call it A107. Circle's a little big. Let's scale it down. Like that. Looks a little neater. I can just draw a line. Like that. I'm going to trim it up. So, mine's a little offset just because of where my lines are exactly going. You want it to look neat. So on and so forth. So we'll pretend that I finished this section. I pretend I finished all my notes. Pretend I finished all my dimensions. You would then go. You can reuse one of these. You can rename one. Move the viewport. Make sure it's set to 3/16. See how it fits. Interestingly, it doesn't fit. Why am I surprised about that? It shouldn't be at this point in time. And clearly it's not going to fit in height. It's just not there. It's not going to have the room. Even if I do that, yeah, it doesn't. I mean, if I'm really tight, maybe I can get to fit, but I didn't even put the chimney in yet, so there's no way. No way this is going to fit. I have no idea. But anyway, I would change this to A105. Change this to section A. Spell section correctly. Change this section. I could call it sections or section A, since it's all going to be the one drawing. Change all the information on here that you need to make this correct. No north arrow needed, so I can erase the north arrow. If I shrink this way down and pan this way as close as I can get, I can then come in the model space and make this as tight as humanly possible. I can cheat too, maybe. Do things that I wouldn't otherwise do. So if I scale this down to there, and I take this, and actually, although I hate putting this below, like I'd like to have it just perfectly clean. I moved that by accident. Make sure I put this in, like sort of squeezed down like that. come down here and pull this like that, maybe that'll all fit. Not really. I'm quite honestly, I'm at a loss. I don't want to cut this. I know we can cut this, but we shouldn't have to. That's a bad way to draw. So what I'm going to have you guys do is I'm just going to have you guys cut off the top. It's bad, but the other solution is to change scales, but we've already gone down this road and we can do that. I'm not going to... It's bad to have different scales too. It's just, you know, I hate to say it, it's a poorly conceived set of drawings for putting this together like this. It just shouldn't happen. There's definitely ways around it. So with that, finish this section. That'll be the end of this part. I'm going to do another video to show you how to do the blow up of this section. Alright, so I'll see you soon.